Michigan. So
Yeah.
this is important because there is this dialogue around Michigan
Mm-hmm.
that people of Muslim descent or Arab descent are not going to support Joe Biden because of what's happened in Palestine and with Israel and Gaza and so on. And Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has specifically spoken out and said that she is voting non-committed
Mm-hmm.
because of she does not like the way that President Joe Biden has handled the atrocities in Palestine. Her philosophy is that we're going to show Biden by voting this way in the primary. She
Mm-hmm.
has said that we are not going to vote this way in the general election.
Right.
So this is her way of putting pressure on President Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Some people feel like this is not a good way to start because, God forbid, folks make the same decision in the general election, and Rashida Tlaib going in this direction is not any direction we need to go in. That's the kind of the philosophy on 2 points. And if you're in Michigan, I'd love to hear from you. How are you feeling about Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib saying that she is voting non-committed or non-committal, whatever the case may be, to show Biden to put pressure on Biden? What are your thoughts on this, Reese?
I think it's a brilliant strategy, actually. I hate the environment that we're in, particularly with social media, that our votes are a blood oath and infinitely, indefinitely, a fealty to a particular candidate or to a particular party. Our votes are the leverage that we have to put pressure on our elected officials. And I talked about this on my show way back in October. The idea that you cannot ever express what you intend to do with your vote based on what policies or based on what positions the politicians that want your vote have. The idea that you can't ever say you're not going to get my vote if you continue this policy, whether that policy be uh, continuing to not want to call for a ceasefire, or whether that policy be attacking reproductive rights. The idea that you cannot tell a politician, in order to earn my vote you need to change course on this particular issue, is the opposite of democracy in my view. I understand the fear that people have. Oh no, 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 we can't embolden Trump. Oh no, no, we can't say nothing that's gonna make people think that everybody ain't with Biden. I understand that, but I think that's a you problem if that's your concern. Each one of us individually have a vote. Unfortunately, electoral college dilutes that. And we each one of us have the autonomy. When we go in that booth, it's only one person pulling that lever for whichever candidate. We all have the autonomy to do what we want to do with our vote. And so I think that this is actually a really great strategy to tangibly, beyond polling, signal to the administration you need to do more about the humanitarian crisis. When you have the United States pulling out aid from the UNRWA because of accusations that a handful of people in the organization were involved in the attacks, when you have Chef Jose Andres having to airdrop food into Gaza, half of it getting into the ocean because the humanitarian aid trucks are being shot by the IDF. When you have the kind of famine and people being dislocated, um, and being attacked, then something has to be done by that about that beyond just mealy mouth rhetoric. And so I think that for people of conscience on this particular issue, if they want to say, we want to show you that you have to earn our vote by changing course, at least in what you do. Can they control Netanyahu? No. Can they control the IDF? No. But they can't control the rhetoric and the pressure that they put on IDF and Netanyahu to not just continue this carnage on innocent people. And so I don't think that it is remotely appropriate to tell people that you can, in a primary, express opposition because we're afraid of the general election. The general election is we'll get there when we get there. But I think that the administration has to continue to be pressured on this issue, because if they just feel like it's baked to the cake, it doesn't matter how many tens more thousands of children get killed or women get killed. everybody's just going to get over it by the time November comes, then that is not, to me, the humane or the right thing to do. And so I get where people get a little shook about, but if you're shook, then you need to be explaining to the administration how serious this is, as opposed to trying to suppress people expressing their disagreement with this. So I'm all for it because I do think that the policy, not necessarily the United States policy entirely, but I think what's happening in Gaza is heinous, and there has to be more pressure consistently being put on all parties to stop the madness.
Let me ask you, Reese. Do you think that vote uncommitted will is that applying pressure? Will Biden see that and suddenly say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to do something different"? Do you think that is applying pressure?
I do think it's
Will that
applying
work?
pressure. You need the votes in Michigan, right? I mean, when you have a situation like South Carolina where Biden won what 96% of the vote,
Yeah,
then does that tell Biden, well, we need to do something differently? No, and that's fine. You know, that wasn't a strategy in South Carolina. But if you look at the margins in Michigan, I believe what did Hillary lose Michigan by 10,000 votes, something along
10,000,
those lines?
10,000. Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
now Biden and Harris improved the margins in terms of how
They
much
did.
more they won over Trump in 2020, but this could be the difference between Hillary losing the election through the Electoral College by 77,000 votes, or them being Biden Harris being president over Trump. And so you have to take it seriously. Now, if it flops and flails and they get 2,000 uncommitted votes to, and it's 98%, then they might be like, well, fuck y'all,
That,
So
that's
this
my question.
that
That's a
could
good point.
backfire on them as
That
well. But I mean, uncommitted is an option in many states. In Maryland, uncommitted placed higher than Elizabeth Warren in the 2020 primaries. You know what I'm
my
saying? And
Liz,
so
baby.
then a lot of candidates. Okay. And so, uncommitted is not an uncommon option in the primaries, And I
Mhm.
actually think there might be a cathartic release for people who feel kind of trapped. Like, I hate this policy. I hate what's happening, particularly if you're a Muslim person or a person of Palestinian descent or whatever. It might actually feel like I'm gonna hold my nose and vote for Biden in November, but at least this is something that I can do to show that I ain't with this shit. I have to survive based on evaluating both candidates in November. But in this case, I get a chance to at least register my disagreement and disapproval on this issue. It would be different if she was saying vote for Marianne Williamson or vote for
Or
Dean
Dean
Phillips.
Phillips.
I think it's
Yeah.
fair to say, this is a protest vote. I've said it before. If you don't vote in November, that's not a protest vote. Okay.
Right, right.
Because that means that you're abdicating your vote to people who are going to vote for Trump. But in this particular case, it is literally a protest vote because the outcome is essentially the same. There's no harm in doing it from what I can see.
Let's go to a call here. Mika from Detroit. What's up, Mika? First time caller.
Hi, Clay. Hi, Reese.
Hey, what's
Hi.
up?
What I'm afraid of, and I understand exactly what you're saying, Reese, but what I'm afraid of is that, and I don't want to say people are not smart enough. I want to say
Hmm.
they're not politically educated enough. But what I'm afraid of is that these same people that do uncommitted today may do uncommitted again in the general.
Mhm.
I mean, am I thinking too much? I mean, that's what we got. It's so, like you said, citizenship is on the line right here.
Yeah.
And I've never been afraid. I've never been afraid. I'm 49 years old. I've never been afraid as I am right now.
I hear you. I hear you, Mika. Go ahead, Reese.
Well, let me say this. The primary voters are the most engaged voters of the party.
That is true.
Typically primaries have no more than 33% turnout. They're very low turnout people in general. General election voters are not as frequent typically anyway. And so I wouldn't be so concerned about primary voters per se, because these are the people that vote all the time anyway. It wouldn't be an uncommitted option in this. Maybe, somebody might vote third party or something along those lines. But I think that, first of all, let me say, I am unequivocally supportive of the Biden-Harris administration for reelection. I'm unequivocally. I do not support what is happening in Gaza to innocent civilians. I do not support that, and I will never defend it. But I do think that the Democratic Party needs a reality check and a wake-up call on this issue. I don't think that it's going to go away. And I think it could make the difference in the margins. And so, whether or not they can change the policy or change the outcome, they have to do at least a better job of messaging what the plan is, what our involvement is. Um, and I think when we're talking about Black voters, let's not act like Black voters are agnostic on this. The polling that I've seen, a good 40% minimum support a ceasefire. You have 30% who do support sending more aid to Israel, but this isn't something that Black people just Black people don't care. A lot of Black people care about this issue. This is something that a lot of people are alarmed of all races. So it is an issue. It sucks for Biden Harris, who probably would have coasted a lot easier to reelection had this not happened. But when you're president, you have a responsibility and you're accountable for what your administration, what the government does. So they have to figure out a way to get the people that are disaffected by this back on board. And this is a good way of showing to me you have more work to do and you better get to it. They got hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, they're bragging about, oh, we've raised record sums. We got cash on top of cash. They have the resources to get whoever is disaffected on this issue back on their side. And they have the power to do something differently. If they choose not to do that, that's not on the people who are just this is their red line. That's on the administration. I've always said politicians have to earn the votes of the people that they want to vote for them, period. I understand the stakes, but the onus is on them to figure this out.
Let's do one more call, then we'll head to a break. Ellis from Michigan. What's up, Ellis? First time caller?
Yes, I am.
Hey, what's up? Michigan calling in.
Not
What's
much.
up?
And I seen you on the Michael Steele show yesterday. Great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And it was because I saw you that prompted me to call. Actually, one of two reasons. I regard Rashida as a friend. I was born and raised and worked my full adult life in Michigan, that southeast Michigan area. I've
Yes.
worked with Rashida on some small projects. I think what Reese said is accurate. This is a protest vote. Rashida's not dumb. She knows the other guy could care less about her and anybody that looks like her.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, she's going to come home and she's going to stand behind the Biden-Harris ticket. But I do have some concerns about the level of engagement as far as response Israel to Palestinians. It's terribly one-sided, and Reese's right. Innocent people are dying. There has to be some answer. I can't tell you what that is, but I do believe at the end of the day, there won't be a ton of support for Uncommitted, not in that area. In fact, I have my retirement party in Dearborn. But I do think she's going to come home, and I'm not the least bit afraid of where Michigan's going to go.
Not the least bit afraid. That's good to hear. We had the other caller who had some concerns. Did you have a comment, Reese?
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing because I remember, when early on, October, November timeframe, I saw a lot of Democratic supporters being very dismissive of Muslim voters, of Palestinian voters, like, well, fine then, vote for Trump, and then watch your ass be in internment camp, so they're gonna woo. And that is not helpful, okay?
Yeah.
And that is what forces people's hands to do something like vote uncommitted, because when people express verbally that they have a problem with it, they are dismissed, they're shut down, they're disregarded, and they're counted out as though their votes don't matter. And so you can't, on the one hand, tell people, well, fine, your funky ass vote don't matter anyway. You just fine, go vote for Trump. But then on the other hand, have a cow when they're saying, okay, fine, we'll vote uncommitted in this primary. Pick which one. Are you going to say that they are irrelevant and their votes don't matter? Or are you going to say we need every vote? Because if we need every vote, then do what you got to do to get people back in the fold when it really should be a no-brainer that it's not okay to slaughter children and women who are defenseless, who are starving, who have no place to call home, living out of tents. That should not be something that we are having a debate about. That's just a humanity issue. That's not a foreign policy issue. That's not a, well, this is a complex, this is a purely humanitarian issue. And so be very careful about which boat you want to be in. If you want to be in, I don't give a damn, vote for Trump and then see what happened to your ass vote, then that's fine. Just keep that energy and don't bother people about voting uncommitted. And then again, don't bother them in November either. But if you want to get all the votes that we need, people who have already been Democratic voters, this isn't trying to convert Trump voters or, the Ohio diners. These are people who are already with us who already vote that we want to keep in the fold. And so I think that this could, if it's done well, it could send the message. We got to keep these people on our side. They're gettable voters. They're voting in the Democratic primary. They're not voting. They're not staying home. They're not voting in the Republican primary for Nikki Haley, who's horrible on this issue, be clear. But I'm saying, I think that this is a way to tangibly say, we need to keep these people in our fold.